This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Good evening. This is the Easthampton City Council Ordinance meeting for September 16th. Tonight we are going to discuss the short-term rental ordinance, and that's everything that we have on our agenda. We don't have any meeting minutes to approve. Is there anyone here from public speak that would like to say anything? No. Oh, no. All right. So at the last meeting, we discussed the the responsibility of the approval process to the health department and the Board of Health. Within that, also our director for the health department wanted to add in some additions regarding water and sewer. The city planner and the director, the planning department and the director for the health department provided some language. Would either of you like to speak to this? And Ryan, I'll turn it to you first. Is there anything that you want to add or have anything to say in regards to what's written?
Nothing. Just in regards to sewage systems and if the property does have a well and it's not on city water, just that would be regularly tested, and that wastewater systems would be pumped and have a pumping record of at least 3 years, minimum once every 3 years.
Director Manuel, do you have anything that you want to add regarding that language?
No, I based it on an example that Ryan was kind enough to share with me, and I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to make sure. President Kwasinski, do you have any comments or questions or?
Since Ryan brought up the subject of water and septic, why don't we start there? Do we have a standard in the city for the number of times that wells be tested if we so have questions about it? Is that a private owner's responsibility? Do they do that? Do we impose any restrictions or requirements?
It's a good question. I believe it's a private owner's responsibility. I'd look deeper into it. My concern would be when the public's involved, if they're renting it out to someone, just for us to be able to ensure that the water is not polluting and it wouldn't cause a public health concern or any type of concern.
I thought I read in here, and I wasn't sure that it would be once every 5 years, I think, Allison.
Every 3 years?
Every 3 years.
I might have misspoken. It might be every 5.
So wastewater is written as had to have been done 3 years.
Well water first.
The well water, that was my mistake. The well water would be tested within 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
That it be tested within 5 years of registration. And then,
so they would include, with their application, they would include the results of the well water testing within 5 years of the date of the application. So if they had previously tested the well water, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they would be able to include that.
right, and that would suffice.
Correct.
Within 5 years.
Correct.
What about subsequent to registration first time? Is there
After
follow-ups every other year? every registration? Are we registering every year? So then the well test, you'd go back every 5 years from the new registration date. Let's say 2 years hence, they're re-registered.
And so if they're registering every single year and they just had a test done the first year they registered, they wouldn't need one for
the next 5 inspections, presumably.
correct,
Right.
yearly registrations.
Okay. Sounds reasonable, as long as the public can understand that I was concerned.
Mhm.
When were you talking about the standards with regard to septic systems? Is that what you were referring to? 4450-4? Or,
Are you talking about me?
yeah, G. 450-4G.
Yes.
The way I read it, if the short-term rental is connected to a septic system, Board of Health may, as a condition of registration, impose a restriction on the number of occupants permitted on the premises at any one time. That makes sense. How do you base that? How are you thinking of basing that standard? I mean, if there's a certain number of bedrooms associated with the
Exactly.
septic, let's say a 3-bedroom permit.
Mhm. And your house is permitted for 3 bedrooms for your septic system.
And there are 6 people living in the house. And let's say 3 people living in the house, or 4 or 5. Some number. Would you be adding to that number? How would you calculate the number of occupants that you would then determine or limit the property to? How would an owner know?
So I guess ideally I'd include whether the owner is renting out the property or if they're living there. And then if they're renting it out, I think I'd have to go more into detail about it, but I would say 2 people per bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a 3-bedroom, that would be 6 people. My only fear is I don't want it to be, if it's a 3-bedroom house that's has a septic system designed for a 3-bedroom house, I think 15 people would overload the septic system. So that's what I want to like. I'm more than want to be realistic and to work with the person, but just to keep it somewhat reasonable. So ideally, I think 2 people per bedroom if it's a septic system not on town sewage.
But it can't be more than 5 people. Right.
A 3-bedroom, it can't be more than 6 occupied.
Not for the short-term rental, it can't be more than 5. Because you
Can't
have
be more than
fire.
5.
Unless they had their fire,
Right,
the fire sprinklers.
right.
Okay. Allison, did you? I thought I saw her hand.
I just see her hand. I don't see it raised.
Oh, right. Okay. Those were my 2 questions on those 2 issues.
Okay. Any other questions? I know that you came into this late, so.
Oh, yeah.
Thoughts. And-
Lots of thoughts. I was at 450-4 GHI through K. So let's see.
So we just covered B.
The H, short-term rental located on the same parcel as the owner's principal residence may be rented for an unlimited days per year, provided that the owner occupies and utilizes their dwelling on the same property at the time of the short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
In all other cases, the short-term rental should not be rented for more than 250 days per registration year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you so you issue that on the permit. How do you begin to manage that? Have you given any thought to that?
Well, I think the first thing that on the application, it would have to be, is the owner going to be living there? So that's,
Right.
So I think we're working a little bit with honesty. But if they're not going to be living there, then it would be the 250 days.
The 250 days. Now we'll get reports
If they're in there.
from the income from the state, but that's delayed 3 months, 2 months
Mhm.
on any funding you get. But it comes in bulk money. It doesn't.
Mhm.
I don't think it comes in itemized per unit. So let's say there were 50 rentals. It wouldn't be itemized that, unit number 1 had
180
180 days of rental.
Mhm.
And with this much income, I'm not sure what their reporting is. If they report that, that's a great way for us to kind of keep a handle on it without.
Right. I don't know how it's reported, but I was under the assumption, and this is my assumption, that we got information about who had that number of days.
Mhm.
Or it's something that the owner, if that didn't happen in that way, we could communicate with the owner and that could be reported from the owner.
Mhm.
Because it's tracked on their account and everything.
I'm imagining a complaint situation. Somebody calls up and says, they've been renting for 300 days and they don't live there.
Mhm.
What's going on? How do you begin to?
Well, then again, I think we would have to contact the owner or the host. And then they would have provide us with some printout from their account with,
documentation.
yeah, some documentation from their account of the number of days that they rented. So I mean, there's some tracking that has to happen on their end as well.
Right. I think it's a good idea to keep this distinction, and I was just wondering how we begin to operationalize.
Excuse me, what's number? We're talking about H, sorry, 4-50 points.
Right under the G, the red G.
Yeah, so we're at H.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So if I may, I just want to add that for compliance, there is at the compliance section, there is a requirement that they retain records and make them available on request with information regarding number of stays, occupants, and so on.
So if it's required, then it would be rather straightforward. Say, well, show us your records.
Right.
Good. Short-term rentals shall only be rented to one party or group at a time. Individual rooms in the same dwelling unit shall not be rented to separate unrelated parties or groups at the same time. I was trying to understand the rent, the market, somebody coming in, and how that may limit who you could rent to or how, and what was the intention, and how does it play out? If somebody says, geez, we're having a wedding and we're going to rent this unit 1 and unit 2 in Easthampton, and for example, and that'll give us enough spaces, but they're unrelated parties.
Well, I think what this is saying is that, let's say I'm gonna rent my house, rooms in my house. I'm gonna be gone. And I'm gonna rent it to this couple, one room, and I'm gonna rent to this couple, the second room. So you can't do that.
Yeah, I think it's to kind of distinguish between a lodging house or a boarding house
Yes.
and a short-term rental. And unrelated isn't necessarily by blood. If you're all there for the same wedding, I would say that your group is related just by that factor.
Yeah, I imagine that may be some of the needs is that somebody comes in and says, geez, I have, so many couples and there are so many bedrooms, you got a little septic because the septic is big enough and great, but I can't stay there because so that answers the question about being related and the concept of related.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what it's trying to say is that I can't rent them out to separate people who are not strangers
To each other.
to each other.
Who are
right?
there? Yeah.
So for example, person A, they want to rent a room, they show up and then room B is rented out to another person and they don't know each other, right? So I think that's what it's saying. You can't do something like that. But I have a wedding that's coming and the 2 sets of friends are going to be there, then that's fine because they know each other, they're renting it together, and that's how that would happen.
Mm-hmm. Good. J, short-term rentals are prohibited in dwelling units owned by a corporation. Short-term rentals are permitted in dwelling units owned by an LLC are prohibited in dwelling units owned by a corporation. Therefore, they're permitted in dwelling units owned by an LLC or trust only when every shareholder, partner, member of a legal entity is a natural person. I'm trying to understand that. I understand the concept, but maybe you can explain it further.
Allison, do you want to?
Yeah, so this was taken from an example ordinance, and I couldn't tell you which community exactly I got it from, but the intent is just that you don't get like shell companies or corporations that have no ties to Easthampton, or at least the regional area, coming in and buying property and being like an absentee manager, so to speak. And it also provides the city, there's limits on the number of short-term rentals that a person can have within the city. And so that gives us a way of tracking and making sure that one person doesn't have 10 just under different shell corporation names, or, you know, I'm not sure all the legal terms of how businesses are registered, but the intent is really just to tie it to an actual human being and make sure that they are not owning more than what is permitted by the regulations.
The last one was K, was short-term rentals are prohibited in dwelling units designated as affordable or otherwise income restricted, which are subject to affordability covenants or are otherwise subject to housing or rental assistance under local, state, or federal programs of law. I think I had thought the intent was to keep anything that is designated affordable to stay on the market in outside of the short-term rental process. That is, am I getting that right? That's the reasoning behind it. Of course, I could think of the possibility of somebody who is living, I'm imagining a scenario where there are two people. One is a disabled person, and the other person is a relative, let's say, and they're living together in a unit, and the disabled person goes into the hospital, for example. Or into a long-term care facility of some sort, under what kinds of and the person sitting with the unit is saying, their money's going to go over here. I don't have that income. I need to be, is there any situations in which someone would need this, someone who would be in an affordable unit? That turns the lights off. Is that it?
Yeah, yes, it
We're good. Is there a scenario where we're prohibiting folks? I don't want to be seen as discriminating or to discriminate against anyone who is in an affordable unit and would like to take advantage of a short-term rental. It could be a situation where somebody is, and we just wanted to present that as a discussion point. Maybe that's not ever going to happen, but someone could say, "Hey, geez, how come I'm being told I can't rent short-term and affordable unit when I'm in a bind financially because the person I'm living with is off under a care situation, and I'd like to keep the place and keep it available for if and when they come back."
So I think that it's not, and I guess there's a question of whether it's owner occupied, which is what I think you're asking,
I'm
but
thinking of an owner-occupied situation.
right, but I don't think that we've specified that, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Allison, but I think this is in terms of that unit is under, is it affordable housing or whatever the designation of that, that person couldn't not be there, but rent it out, right? So I think that's what this is doing, but is that clarified whether or not it has to be owner occupied as well?
No, it does. I mean, it really doesn't matter because it could be like an owner occupied Habitat for Humanity,
Right.
for example. And the affordable housing covenant it still applies even if it's owner occupied. And if the individual that is on the deed is no longer on the premises for whatever reason, the property can only be sold to another income eligible person, just for one example. But any kind of subsidized unit, it would definitely run afoul of the subsidy program to make that unit eligible for any kind of income driven purpose.
That's what I wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to hear, is that it would run afoul of the standards under which the unit were. I also thought of a situation where it could be the unit could be let to somebody who met the same criteria. That's cumbersome.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say somebody, someone may travel and they say, gee, I need a place to stay. Well, I'll go for a short-term rental that's affordable, that is affordable. I'm in an affordable unit now, but I'm going to be at a wedding at some point.
Right, but I don't think the cost that a host puts on that particular property is related to affordability. I think it's just a straight cost.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think that would pertain to that.
I'm comfortable with leaving it excluded.
Okay.
If everyone else is.
Yeah.
If we don't think there anyone who might be in that situation from this. Let's say someone came in and said, geez, I have this case. Would it be able to be subject to appeal? Would there be consideration?
I mean, they could appeal it, but they also have to follow
their own agreements with the affordable housing people.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the overriding factor. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Smith, so just to catch you up, we went over the wastewater additions, and then we were just going over Councilor Kwasinski's questions regarding 4-50.4 G through K. So we had some clarifying questions there about that we've answered. Do you have any questions regarding any of the new items or any other items?
No. It's an interesting conundrum to consider someone who is being placed into institutionalized care settings and what happens to their house. Just need to acknowledge that. Yeah, it definitely happens a lot. And if I'm understanding right, there's already something in place for that at a law level. Okay. So yeah.
At a law level, there would be the requirement that it remain affordable, and that would restrict.
No, not about if it remained affordable, just whether or not not the estate of the person, because the person is still alive, but just the
for example,
power of attorney stuff.
Let's say, for example, a sibling who was living there,
right,
caring for the person until they went into and now it's relying on the income from their whatever their income was, and the person who became, I'm going to use the word institutionalized. and needing to supplement that.
I just mean if the owner is institutionalized, is there another person that can legally take over as the landlord immediately? Or because the person is in a care setting, would that exclude it? That's what I thought you were bringing up. So it sounds like I'm going a lot more into it than we needed to, so we're good. I'm good.
There was one other point that regarding the gas shutoff and labeling shutoffs.
Yeah. Do you remember what number that was?
It was 450.5 IV.
IV, photos, yeah, IV.
Gosh, shut up.
Requiring the location to be listed. I was just gonna add for purposes of water shutoffs.
Let's add water shutoff.
Well, I would add water. It may not be as much a safety factor as the gas, but it still, I think, is helpful to the overall health of the unit.
Can I make a comment to that?
That would be up to the chair.
Okay, please. Thank you. So that would require someone, if I was renting a room, that they go into my basement to be able to shut off my water, which seems excessive.
Mhm.
Do they have access to water in the unit?
Oh, yes, in the unit, I don't know.
Do they,
But
what I'm envisioning is a bathroom and a room. And it's off the bedroom. And it's separate. Or it's the bathroom on the second floor, it's a bathroom on the floor they're living in.
You guys are gonna have to work that out, it seems.
So if I understand your question,
Just,
there's a sudden burst of a pipe.
yeah,
And they can either call the host and say, hey, you've got
can you get
a
over here?
busted thing, and can you get over here? Which technically they have to be within a certain distance of the house for them to get over there, right? So I guess that would be up to the host then to decide whether or not they wanted that person to go down into their basement.
Right, but it would be labeled, it's in the basement. Okay.
Yeah.
Or it's under the sink, it's under here. Just so they know where it is.
I don't think it's their responsibility.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's that, someone has to be on call 24 hours a day for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
occupant to call. So someone should be there in relative close
Relatively
distance.
quickly, yes.
I mean, the whole thing is you guys have been saying we need to be within a certain distance.
Right.
So we can get there in a certain time frame. I don't want anybody touching my stuff.
I agree.
I mean, I appreciate it. I don't want my house to flood either, but I'd rather they
Well, I'm
not.
imagining a scenario where someone has the shut off in the bathroom under this over here, and somebody comes in, they don't know where the shut off is, they don't know which one to turn, they should be labeled, and but maybe that's more of a management thing for the individual.
Yeah. Management versus ordinance,
Yeah.
I think.
I don't want
Gas
down
shut
the
off, it differs in that regard because of the safety feature. Where gas shut off normally kept? Are they accessible to?
Well, I think they're in the basement, so it does raise the question of this, but I don't, they're not going to be the ones who go down into the basements to turn those things off, right? So I think that's the responsibility of the host.
So why are we putting in that the
Well, I think
locations
these were
are required?
requests by the fire department. And so I think with the fire department, they're probably more concerned about gas shut-off valves than they are water.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why that was listed in that particular way.
Well, and it could also be that the note that, says where everything is could just say the gas shut-off valves are in the basement. Please call
Please call the
Yeah.
owner. Yeah,
if there's an issue.
sounds good.
Okay. Councilor Smith, did you have any thoughts or?
No, it's not that I don't have any thoughts.
you have any questions or?
You know you have great thoughts. You know that.
No, I mean, for this, I feel like we've met over it several times, and I just think like we were going over the language of some of the things, but I have nothing substantial
Yep.
that I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't have any other specifics.
Okay, I do have one more comment that this has just been really, I don't know if it's been eating at me, but it is a point of concern for me, and that's the cap. I know we have 50 and then every year it goes up 10%, et cetera, et cetera. In the last few months, we've seen more residents in the community coming forward with concerns about rent control, rent stabilization. We have more folks who are corporate owned who are coming in and buying property. I am just very concerned. Right now we have under 50. And for me, we can always come back and amend this and adjust this if needed. But to just every year it goes up 10%, that has the potential of cutting into our long-term rental situation. I think the impact of that, we're already seeing some of our low-income residents have to leave Easthampton. And I think this also contributes to pockets of individuals in the community who get to decide who gets to come to Easthampton. So I would like to see it at 50. I think I've kind of thrown that out there a few times, and it's just weighing on me very heavily that I'm both advocating for affordable housing and then making it a possibility that we're going to lose more and more, not more and more, but more affordable housing over time. So I want to name that. And I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I'm more inclined to see it at 50 than I am at any of it, and then for it to just automatically increase. But again, that's something that can be revisited over time. And right now we don't even have 50. So that's just what I'm feeling kind of in this moment.
I hear that concern. I've been hearing folks say that they would like to have an unlimited number.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing folks say that, why don't we set it at 75 and start there? And then I'm not sure. So I'm certainly comfortable with the 50 or something that would be slightly higher. 75 to me sounds a reach. Because everybody's situation changes. I'm not sure that the short-term rentals stay forever. If the folks who are doing short-term rentals, I'm not sure we have enough data to tell. Someone's situation may change. We need the short-term rental. That's become what we need to do now, and they're going to go and do that. And then 2 years later, their situation changes. They're no longer doing short-term rentals. I don't see it as something that's permanently removed from the market, unless, of course, you get the corporations to come in, in which case we have a clause that deals with that. So trying to help you feel a little more comfortable with it. There's demand on the other side. And I don't think it's a permanent situation. I think it fluctuates individually.
I want to make sure I'm understanding your concerns. I feel like I'm the one. When you're talking about short-term rentals, you're saying that the more short-term rentals we have on the market, the more likely it is that someone would not be able to afford a long-term rental?
No, what I'm saying is that if we allow more short-term rentals, those short-term rentals could have been long-term rentals.
Okay. And at the same time, would the other side of that argument why would someone choose to have a short-term rental instead of a long-term rental if they had someone that was like, I guess I'm wondering, is the person or any of these circumstances, then do they move into, okay, let's look at this monthly, let's look at this for a couple months? Where is that distinction between it being short-term and being more long-term? Just really want to understand that better.
So if I understand correctly,
Mm-hmm.
it takes about 10 days to recoup my overhead cost as a short-term rental. So I would rent 10 days, and that would be the cost that it would be for my particular short-term rental.
Mm-hmm.
And then anything over that would be
Profit.
Income. So as a person who owns a property,
Mm-hmm.
I might be more inclined to do a short-term rental because then I'm guaranteed that that person is not going to be there long-term. There's less wear and tear because I go in and I clean up after that stay, and the house, there's less wear and tear on the house, things of that particular nature. But at the same time, if it's unlimited or it's more than 75, then those particular residents are no longer available for long-term
Mm-hmm.
kind of being able to rent. And I think the cost of living, as we're seeing in Easthampton, rents are going up quite significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have gone up to $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
It's like for $2,000. So if it's to my advantage as a homeowner to say, well, I can get this similar amount of money or overhead costs covered, then why would I do that?
So I guess what I'm seeing is that there are two vulnerable groups here. They're the vulnerable group of someone who is not able to move into Easthampton because either there's not a rental to be found or they don't qualify or meet the needs for like credit checks or something on the existing rentals, whatever it is. And so that person who can't get into Easthampton
Mm-hmm.
is the vulnerable group that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, or someone who their rent goes up, they have to move out, but there's not another place in Easthampton because
Mm-hmm.
more people are choosing the short-term rental because it's
But then there's this other group of people who are moving into short-term rentals for the first time because they need another way to generate some income.
So I don't think they're moving into, but you're talking about people who own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they could still generate income
Mhm.
if they were long-term renting it.
Mhm.
But there is a risk to that.
Mhm.
I'm assuming, because you're expecting goodwill, that there's not going to be significant damage, et cetera, et cetera. So
I'm just trying to imagine what would cause someone to say, I have some extra space and I want to turn it into a short-term rental versus a long-term rental.
Mhm.
And do we have enough of a problem within Easthampton of people trying to generate extra income to be able to stay in their homes by converting part of the home in? Like, it's the same argument, but on the flip side of that we also have a situation where people are not being able to maintain their residence in Easthampton unless they take on these extra measures.
Sure. So I think the idea is right now we have less than 50.
What is it, 43?
And it's a little bit confusing because some people are listed a couple of places, so it's a little confusing, which is why that would help to be able to get these actual numbers to be able to do that. But if we just in here, right, 50 every year, it goes up 10%, then we're not, one, we don't know if that's needed, A, or if I only need 10 days to cover my costs, then that's 20 days that I don't have to worry about anybody being in there. So that's a resource to the city that is now lost. But at the same time, I would think that as a committee, we have the ability to change this once we get more numbers, as opposed to starting out one thing. We're not going to be able to go backwards with that, right? And so, well, we could go backwards, but I think it would probably be somewhat difficult if now we had 60 people who were short-term renting, and now we're really seeing the impact of short-term rentals where more and more working class, low income, were not able to find housing within the city. And as a result of that, we have a small number of people who are able to determine who's able to come in the city.
As a side bar of, that's not their intention.
That's not the intention, but that's the impact.
Yeah.
How many rental units do we have in the city, Allison?
Rental units?
How many places that we're talking about? We're saying that 50 is a huge number of how many places that are for rent.
Oh, how many short-term rentals?
No, how many rentals?
How many rentals? I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is I think you're probably talking 1,000, 2,000. I mean, it's not like it's 250 rentals. So it's not like a fifth of the market. It's a small portion of the of the total that we're talking about. So I just was curious because it sounds like we're talking, but you said, Connie, that a small number of people are controlling who can come into Easthampton. And I was trying to understand, okay, maybe among this set of, but that's only a small set, subset of how many there are.
Nope, I hear that.
So I just wanted to get a sense of that.
I mean, it's a small number, but nonetheless, I think it has impact, and we are seeing people who are being forced out, and maybe some of those situations, that's an opportunity or a possibility, another opportunity or possibility for someone to be able to stay. That's all I'm kind of throwing out there.
I hear the concern. I'm comfortable with what was written. I don't know if Councilor Smith has further questions or.
I'm just trying to do the math of 50 plus 10%. And I feel like that equation would be a lot longer to reach the 75 than if we just put 75 up as the beginning number. And I guess the thing that all of these numbers feel very arbitrary to me. Like it doesn't, I don't know what the sweet spot would be where I would feel like, oh, we're doing no harm now if it's this number versus this number. So from what I'm hearing, we had that number and now you're concerned that that's a little too, that's a little too risky to have that many out there of the 50 plus. So I guess what are you proposing?
I think what I'm asking is just maybe have it at 50, get some data, and then we're able to adjust that as needed in the future once we see is that a good spot.
What is the data that we would be looking for?
Well, I think that people would be coming in to ask, like, oh, are there any short-term rental applications that are open that I could get one of those 50 spots? So I think that's the biggest.
But what if at the same time we see a slump in the amount of long-term rentals in Easthampton?
Mhm.
So if we did, and we had fewer people, there's a difference between the demand for the space versus the desire for someone to try to make use of the space and make money from it.
Mhm.
And so in previous conversations, it was my understanding that we weren't sure what that was going to be, like where that would
Mhm.
land. So I'm not quite sure what changed between then and now to say definitely the more conservative number is
Mhm.
what we, and that's what I don't understand what between last time to now. Is it just that you got more feedback from residents who feel that that's too much?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I think originally when we wrote this, we started out with 50,
mhm,
and then the mayor gave feedback of adding the 10%, but that was as an opportunity of getting revenue for the city.
mhm,
And so I think that was kind of where that was, but I think I've said a few times, like,
mhm,
I'm still concerned about that.
mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of where
Yeah.
that's where I'm.
Okay, I can appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could go either way on it.
Mhm.
I think this is just some of those examples in local government where I think we just have to make a decision, because there's not many people on either side of that will have really strong feelings one way or the other, except for those who are really impacted by it.
Or opposed to it, or
Yeah. So because we're under 50 right now, I don't mind keeping it at 50, but I would want to know at what point, like if we reach 50 within 5 minutes after codifying this, does this mean we need to consider more? Like, and so would it ever get to that point, or will it, this is always going to be an issue of inequality, and therefore will always be contentious and probably not move very far from that 50. I just want to be really thinking it through of what we're saying if we were to limit it at 50.
If we were to maintain 50 plus 10%, as the mayor had suggested,
former mayor.
the former mayor had suggested. Yeah, right. Would it make sense to have a cap beyond that, to say there's a number beyond that, which we'll put a stop on to now, and that would force us to something, this will appear before the council again to change.
Yeah.
And that way, if you said, like, throw out a number 75 as the cap, if it gets to 75, that's the limit, the hard limit. It's subject to review, but it doesn't leave it's unlimited, and this could go on forever, and we don't know what the number is. We don't know. Would that deal with some of the discomfort?
Again, I don't feel comfortable with 75. I think the reason for the 50 is that that's a starting point. And like you said, we can always come back and review this as if we hear more people who are like, I really want this, or I really want to do this. I think that's my indication.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's just a lot of unaffordability that's being talked about right now. And so I'm feeling really uncomfortable saying that, okay, there's people are being forced out because rents are too high, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're going to come in and we're going to say, okay, now we're going to make this, and we're going to limit even more. So even regardless of whether a small portion of the whole number, it's just for me, the optics of it.
Yeah.
And it's my own principles is not quite the word I'm looking for, but I feel that I just have an obligation to state that, and it's a value that I have, and I'm trying really hard to figure out how to help people stay here, and it saddens me that people are having to move out, and we're now adding something else that could add to that number at the time. That's me.
I hear that, and I can be okay with the 50. I think that it leaves it open that we can discuss it again. because I don't know
Right.
if we were to put, I'm not quite sure yet how I would feel about like, I don't know. I don't know if suddenly we had that 10% more that happened the next day, and we had now 364 additional days in the year, and everyone's just waiting until the next year.
Mhm.
Well, that I think is deserving of a conversation, but we don't yet know how many people will apply.
Mhm.
And so being a little more conservative with the outcome and saying, let's control this a little bit first, that seems to be prudent to me.
Mhm.
Just the other end of it, I could see
Mhm.
more than 50 people within this next year suddenly having a lot of income insecurity
Mhm.
and needing to do something quick. And so my part is causing too much there, where suddenly someone would not be able to come up with another way to make their mortgage because we had too much lined up where they wouldn't be able to come up with a creative solution.
Right. But they could also do a long-term rental, right?
Mhm.
So there's that option that is still available to them.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and so that's why I think talking it out is important, because those are other choices that
Yep.
the person who would be renting or doing the renting, no, doing the being the landlord.
Not the host.
Right.
How does this, Allison, if I may, impact anyone? I'm in my home and I'm finding myself needing some extra income, and I have a 3-bedroom house and I want to rent out. They would be unable to do a short-term rental situation or apply if they were limited, if all 50
permits are taken.
all 50 permits are taken.
So there is in the ordinance
Say-
provisional registration option that is like outside of the cap, that if you do find yourself in sort of an unexpected circumstance or a unique situation, an elderly parent is institutionalized or passes away, and the children aren't sure what they want to do with the property. They don't want to sell it just yet. They don't want to be tied down to a year-long lease, whatever the reason is. There's an option for a provisional, I think it's one time the way it's written for 1 year. And that's anybody, regardless if we're at the cap or not. You can do that once, and that buys you a year to sort of figure your situation out.
It's good to know.
That's that kind of a safety
You
valve.
rent out a room for more than 28 days and it's no longer a short-term rental. So you could still do that. It just, you'd have to do it for more than 28 days at a time.
That makes me feel more comfortable to know that option is available for individuals.
Mhm.
Because then the government would be saying, you can't do this.
Yeah, and
Did we have good reason not to control that?
my reason for controlling that or being less controlling with it really focuses on the amount of cuts that are coming to our local residents.
Mhm.
And that's going to be hitting, within the next few months of a lot of these cuts. And a lot of people, I don't think, have really calculated out how what they're receiving is going to change.
Mhm.
And so my concern is that going really strict on this before we know what those first round of cuts are actually going to be on our community,
Mhm.
I feel like we're making this ordinance policy with a bit of a blindfold on. And that's my concern, that people who live in Easthampton who could create a different living situation by renting something out, usually those sudden cuts, like being laid off or suddenly losing your health insurance or all that, it's such a quick thing to happen that you might not have I think it would be easier for me to try to figure out a short-term rental and all of that versus getting together for a long-term rental since it's in my own home. And so for those reasons, I'm imagining having a lot of extra barriers put in front of that for someone who lives here to make any quick turnaround if suddenly their finances are suddenly vastly different from what they were the last month.
Right. I actually think a long-term rental would happen much quicker because they're gonna have to have inspections done that they're gonna have to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to get on the calendar to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's more costs that would come the short-term rental than there would. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. And I'm just making sure that I'm articulating my concerns as well, because I don't mind saying, sure, let's try it at 50 and see what happens. And at least we know we have this safety fail that if someone really was in an emergency, they could do this for a year without having to start. And I'm comfortable with that. But if things really do change at a societal level really quickly in the way that if a lot of our homeowners suddenly are losing a lot of their benefits, I just don't know what that will look like yet. But none of us know what that's going to look like yet. And that's why that's where my concern comes from. But I'm willing to be prudent with the amount of, I'm willing to be prudent with that number of 50, with the assumption that we can revisit this if we get numerous complaints that the limit has been hit and there's nowhere for people to go with that. We're not there yet. So again, appreciate we're not there yet.
And just also having those provisional permits for those unforeseen situations.
Right. Like having that is actually makes it a more.
Just so we know that's 4-15.4B.
Yeah, so given this provision, given our conversation, I would be comfortable with making a motion to keep it at 50 days for now and revisit it at a later time if the market deems to be having a lot more need for it.
Second. So it's a motion and a second. So all in favor? Aye.
I'll say nay,
Okay.
just because I'd rather stay with the situation, the existing situation.
All right.
10%.
All right. So we'll cap it at 50 for now. We have the provision to be able to address that, those circumstances. And then also one of the original conversations as well was that this would be revisited, I think, in 2 years, I think we had initially said, but I don't think that it's necessarily in here.
Is that in here?
I don't think that's in, I don't remember it being in here, but I know that was something that we talked about, and then putting it on the city clerk's calendar, that's something.
Do you have a recommendation for language to?
But the other thing we have to think about is the provisions of this ordinance 4-15.8 effective date. The provisions of this ordinance determine the property shall be take effect on May 1st. Obviously, that date is passed. And I do believe our the moratorium on it, I think, ends in October. It's October 31st, but so I actually want to ask Allison, but I think she's off.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm just a really cranky toddler. What was your question?
Like, assume something. So what would the appropriate effective date be? Would it be like November 1st?
Yeah, or the date of the council meeting, which I think is the 22nd of October.
date did you, that would be
I think it was
the
October
effective
22nd. The next is the, public hearing for this.
Yeah, so October 7th is the joint hearing on the zoning ordinance, and then the 22nd is the second reading, I think, of the full council. In talking with Dylan about the ZBA and the sort of continuation on the appeals and the stay on the enforcement of the zoning, I believe the ZBA is going to just extend it for 30 days at their October meeting, so it'll be good through the, third week of November.
date?
I did not hear what you guys.
No, that's okay.
Oh, we were trying to figure out the date for the effective date again.
The,
The ordinance will take effect.
I thought it was gonna be in January or something.
No, I think that January was the, that's like 10%. Well, actually, that's true. So you're going to have, people are gonna have time to get their licenses. But the problem is we have a moratorium that expires, I think in October or the end of October.
Maybe we're switching there, extend that for everyone.
Or what if we started it in November, but we held off on fining until January 1st?
Say that again?
If we started the ordinance in November, but we held off on imposing fines until January 1st?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is their busy season.
Yeah.
So if people have to, if this takes effect November 1st and it's their busy season, then, and they don't have a permit, they're not going to be able to rent, because they're having permitting and things of that nature. So it seems to me they would have to take effect after January. I'm assuming. And in the meantime, they would have to set up getting permits and things like that and inspections. So even January 1st, I think would be difficult.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Please. I think my sense is that hosts want to comply with what you guys are doing, as opposed to just going rogue, which you might see happen, right? And so in that, it seems to me that hopefully you guys are going to be able to hit the ground running, maybe, and that if it happened in either time of year, what about rescheduling guests for you want to come into my place or something, right?
Mhm.
And I think it will just be easier for everyone to comply with you guys, and not dodge you. And I mean, this is my own opinion. No one has said that to me, but just being like, I think everybody be like, okay, let's do this.
Right. So I think I'm going to propose, and I could be very wrong, but I'm going to say we propose February 1st and we ask the mayor to extend that moratorium, because then it gives time, one, for our departments to prepare for this, as well as gives people the opportunity of setting up inspections and things like that so that they can start. But I'm open to other things as well.
Also seems reasonable because there may be something you want me to do that I don't want to fix for you guys to do. It seems to be able to fix those things in a slower time would be more advantageous for everybody.
I have a clarification question. What is the busy season? What
Well,
would be
it
the busy
depends,
season?
I guess. Each unit may be different, but I would say winter in New England is kind of bleak.
Okay.
And I'm not saying no one comes,
Mhm.
but it might be over like school vacation when kids are out. And so
Okay.
family, I'll just go on record right now saying that we track what our guests are coming to town for.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say 95% are coming to visit other family members,
Wow.
maybe going to a wedding, but mostly they're like, because we ask, why are you coming? Because I want to be able to talk to them about why they're here. Oh, my sister lives in, whatever. So I think you're going to find that most people are visiting family, right? And that usually happens during warmer times than cold, but maybe over school vacation or something.
Or the holidays.
Yeah, the holidays, Christmas, like Thanksgiving, people are coming.
All right. I just wasn't sure if there was like an official season in New England that I was not.
There isn't, but it is quieter for us anyway. It's quieter when it's colder.
Okay.
That doesn't mean people don't come. It's just a different.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Although we were reminded that living in New England is pretty.
Unless you like snow. Unless you like snow.
Just imagining the thought of a bleak New England. No, it never happened. Always sunny.
So are people, does February 1st seem reasonable to folks?
Yeah, that feels reasonable. Does it
Say
feel
February
reasonable that the moratorium will be extended?
Yeah, so so I'll email the interim mayor to ask him if we can extend that.
Okay.
So,
You said February 1st?
I said February, yeah, so I'll make a motion to just, I'm not going to, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So I make a motion or I'll accept a motion to change the effective date to February 1st,
I'll move
2025.
that. I'll move February 1st.
Second.
Great. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So in its totality, with the recommended changes, I'll take a motion to send this general ordinance regarding short-term rental and residential properties to city council for full approval.
There was just one, you would mention a review,
Oh, yeah.
and we hadn't come to conclusion on that. I didn't know if that was something that,
So if we were to do 4-50.8 review period, this general ordinance shall be reviewed biannually. Okay.
by the council,
By, well, the committee, but by council, I guess.
by the council.
Mhm.
I think that makes sense.
So I'll take a motion to adopt 4-5 0.8 review period. This general ordinance shall be reviewed biannually by council.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great.
Is there?
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll let you.
There's another meeting, so I realize, but
I won't keep them up. I was just wanted to ask the process that presumably, I was taking your scenario of, well, there's 43 and we're gonna get to 50. Let's say we get to 50 and then bingo, okay, and now you're getting 51, 52, 53, 54. You got 60 people who would like to have short-term rental. Now you're facing next year. How do you deal with that? Next year's, are you always, geez, I'm investing money in a unit, I'm getting approvals, I'm jumping through hoops. I'm always gonna be the one who,
Are you saying, are you grandfathered in? Like if you get one year, should you automatically get the following year?
yeah, how do we deal with that situation? Let's say there was extra demand and all of a sudden you had 60 people come through. Is it first come, first serve? Is it, how do you deal with it?
Or if we had someone put a full, sprinkler system into their residential rental, and then the next year they were a couple days late to getting a permit, like how would that work?
well, I don't think we talked about that. I think we just assumed it was first come, first serve.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, we're wrapping up. I apologize.
yeah, we'll be.
So the question is,
Again, I think it's something we can address because I don't think there are more than 50.
yeah. So I think that if that issue comes up, then we can bring this back to council at any point and address that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So do we want to say at least biannually?
At least by,
Yeah,
okay, so this gentleman actually hereby at least, so that gives us the opportunity of before that.
before that, yeah. Because then somebody would say, well, geez, you're going to review it biannually, but this isn't the review year.
Okay, okay. So I'll take a motion, we already approved that, but I'll take a motion to adopt the
I'll
inclusion of at least biannually.
so moved.
Same.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll move, we need to move to send this to the full council as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.